From the campus of Arkansas State University, this is Centennial Reflections.
On to victory, breaking the second to none. Let's make this game history, along with the others in one. For red and white shall ever wave on high for ages through.
Welcome to Centennial Reflections, a look at Arkansas State history from its beginning as an ag school in 1909 to its present status as a multi-purpose university. I'm Rich Carville, host for this series, and our guest today is Dr. Ray Hall, Jr., who is a physician in Jonesboro, an ASU grad, and has a long affiliation, his family has a long affiliation with Arkansas State University. Your family's earned like 15 degrees from ASU.
That's right. We've got quite a few degrees, and actually I grew up on campus. Our first home in Jonesboro in 1951 was where University Hall now stands. We lived there a short time before moving into town, but grew up on campus in the old wigwam, and I was all over the campus, knew all the dormitories, knew all the ledges and the balconies, and all the professors in those days, and we ate in the cafeteria with Miss Ned each Sunday, and it was quite an atmosphere to grow up in.
And that was because your father, Ray Hall Sr., was Field Services Director at ASU. What does that title mean, Field Services Director?
He was the jack of all trades. His job now is done by about 25 people, I understand. But he was Public Relations Director. That was one of his main jobs, but he also was first director and president of the Alumni Association. He was in charge of correspondence courses. He was the main recruiter for ASU, or ASC at that time, and he also was in placement. He got people jobs when they graduated. So he worked tirelessly all those jobs, and had a wonderful staff of secretaries, and of course Jim Jackson and Fred Paxton later helped him in that position as assistants.
So Field Service has been a whole lot of different things.
Been a lot of things.
What was the relationship between your dad and Carl Ring, the president of Arkansas State?
They were classmates in graduate school at Fayetteville at the university, and Dad came here as an instructor the first year in education and history, and at that time ASU had the vacancy in the presidency, and he was familiar with Dr. Ring, and his name was bounced around, and Dad was one of the people that supported Dr. Ring as a candidate, actually mentioned his name to the search committee, and so they were good friends going way back. And of course later Dad left teaching and within a short time became the director of field services.
Part of his job was recruiting, that is recruiting students. And I noticed he's mentioned several times, of course, in Voices from State, the history, the oral history of Arkansas State. And they say in there that he developed this new concept, Senior Day at Arkansas State, where they brought high school students in.
Right, brought him in and bought him lunch and toured the campus, and of course he knew every counselor in Arkansas and the Boot Hill of Missouri at high schools. He knew undertakers, he knew county judges, he knew school superintendents. So he used to be a superintendent and a principal also, so he became friends with a lot of those folks, and it gave him an inroad to recruiting. He brought a lot of kids to Jonesboro to college that way with those relationships.
And another continuing activity that was started during your dad's time here was Legislative Day.
That's right, and to bring in the legislators from all over the state, really, develop those relationships, and we certainly can see in history that those became important during the university drive.
There was an activity back during the Ring presidency, early in the Ring presidency, to show the people of Jonesboro about the economic impact that the college had on the town. What was that?
I believe that you're referring to the time the payroll was met by Mr. Cameron, the Vice President of Finance, who was also a good friend of my father. he paid all the faculty and staff one Friday and $2 bills. So when those bills were taken into the local community, to the business community, they would know that money came from Arkansas State.
Well, what's your fondest memory at growing up on this campus?
Gosh, I have so many. I guess I love the athletic events, and I really remember seeing all the football games at the old Kays Field, the horse around the track, the basketball games in the old field house with Coach Roth. Coach Roth was colorful. The bench was underneath the basket at that time, like Vanderbilt has now, and Coach Roth would walk the player to be substituted all the way around, giving him instructions before he went in, and he had the towel, and he had the towel decades before Jerry Tarkanian. And Coach Roth was so colorful that we enjoyed going to those games. But I enjoyed the picnics, the faculty 4th of July picnics that we had at the pavilion, and loved the Wigwam, grew up in the Wigwam, saw my first television program there in black and white. I remember Eisenhower versus Stevenson, and that election was we saw that in the Wigwam down the basement of Wilson Hall.
And then you, of course, enrolled in school here after you finished at Jonesboro High School.
Right.
Your best remembered professor?
Well, I had some great professors, but I'd say Dr. Richards in botany was outstanding. Dr. Sifford, he was the man that if you didn't pass his course, you went to Vietnam. So I had great respect for him. I took organic chemistry in the summer, no air conditioning, very intense course. But I mean, I had some wonderful, wonderful professors, even in the English department, not just in science, but those stand out.
We'll come back and talk a little bit more about Ray's times as a student and as SGA president in just a moment.